How y'all doing? Good. See what that reads?
Is everybody ready? Recording.
Just a second. Thank you.
No, we're getting ready to start. Is IT there?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. I'll order the meeting of the Greenwood Common Council on Monday, February the 5th. If you would, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and after the pledge, please remain standing. We'll be led in prayer this evening by Joshua Lemons, pastor of the Greenwood United Methodist Church. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, folks. I'm just a fat gray-haired old country boy that has a real good.
I'm sorry, sir, you're interrupting the meeting. If you wouldn't mind sitting down, please. We're getting ready to have prayer. Sure. Go sit down,
Shake my hand, please. Thank you.
if you'll behave.
Always.
You're not so far, please. You go sit down.
Friend, will you join us in prayer?
Fine, please.
All right.
Thank you. Let us pray. God of grace and truth, we gather in this space tonight and ask for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we continue our work. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that affect us and all those around us. And continue to remind us that you came as an example of a servant, so that we too may be reminded of our duty to serve one another and our community. May all that we do here today serve you and this community. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
May we be seated. Roll call.
Here. Campbell.
Here.
Gibson. Here. Hill.
Here.
Hopper.
Here.
Muncy.
Here.
Manship. Here. Moan. Williams.
Here. And we do have a quorum. We have a situation tonight where one of our counselors has an emergency and needs to leave early. So to accommodate her, we are going to move the approval of minutes until later on the agenda and reports until later. So at this time, we'll open up the floor for public comments. And I'm sure many of you are here tonight in regards to the first ordinance on our agenda, ordinance 2403. This is not like the Plan Commission. There's not so much time for the petitioner and so much for remonstrance. This is just an opportunity for members of the audience to address the council concerning items that are on tonight's agenda. There is a 20-minute time limit per topic and a 5-minute time limit per speaker. So if you would like to address the council concerning any item on the agenda, now is the time to step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Before we do that though, if you are here in regards to ordinance 2403, if you would simply raise your hand so we would have an idea of if you're here for that. All right. Then we'll open up the floor. If you're here, wish to speak to the council about any item on tonight's agenda, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. This is the only opportunity you'll have to speak. You will not be offered an opportunity to speak when the ordinance comes up on the floor. So the petitioner will speak when the ordinance comes up on the floor. This is for the audience to speak. So if you would like to speak, now is your opportunity. The 5-minute time limit per speaker, 20 minutes per topic.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Patrick Olmstead. I'm an attorney in the community where I live in Hunting Creek. I've had some neighbors ask me to also speak on behalf of the neighborhoods. They'd really like that road to go between Smith Valley and Main Street to help us with the connecting roads. I'd like to incorporate my statements from January 22nd if I can. As to the statutory criteria, you've got the comprehensive plan, the current conditions. Those are what we want to focus on. The comprehensive plan calls for this to be single-family residential. The staff agreed with that general point. What they said was, although existing future land use plan recommends single-family residential for these areas, they should not exclude a mixture of some multifamily residential. The description of future single-family residential in the comprehensive plan calls for variety in housing styles, architectures, neighborhood characteristics. With due respect, each of those is not talking about multifamily. It's only talking about single-family and not have it be uniform in architecture. We want variety to break up the sidewalks. The only two neighborhoods that are going to connect to the southwest plot are single-family residential and have been for over 30 years. It is not fair for them to build next to an apartment on the north side of Main Street and try to call that our neighbor. That's not fair to us, and that's why I said that these should be considered separate. As for the connecting roads, I've done research today, and I looked at the research behind why do connecting roads decrease emergency response times. What I found out is that, as far as I could tell, there was one single study commissioned by the Environmental Protection Agency back in 2008. They had one single study that came out with a report in 2009. It was based on one city in Charlotte. And there's a big difference between sequence versus causation versus correlation. In that particular case, they said that Charlotte enacted a connecting cities ordinance in 2001, and then within 4 or 5 years, their response rates dropped. It was interesting because one of the authors said, it was astounding to us that it could happen so fast because it usually takes a long time for connecting roads to get built. In our case, we've got 4 years. What it says to me is the government was using bad data and ran a deeply flawed study that didn't take into account the new fire houses that they had built, the new equipment they were using, and the use of GPS during that time. I am concerned that Greenwood is being influenced by that deeply flawed study. I cannot find that it has been replicated at any time since 2009. Had the government been able to replicate it, I'm sure they would have published such work. I would ask that you please ask the planning director to work with me to evaluate this when we're putting together the planning process.
Thank you. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Mark Webb, 405 Leah Lane here in Greenwood, Indiana. Thank you for the opportunity to address you all tonight. I'd like to start by hoping we represent, or I'm speaking on behalf of the people of Green Valley Estates, the ones who will be most impacted by the connection of the Walker development through the existing neighborhood. We live along Green Valley Road and along Leah Lane. I'd like to also begin with saying thank you to the council members who worked so closely with us. Terry, I hope I can call you out without embarrassing you or giving you trouble. It was wonderful to have somebody who was trying to help us understand what was going on so that we could try to be helpful in this decision process. Terry, you are one of the few, so we thank you. The rest of you, no words. We see an opportunity in the new development going into the southeastern field, a chance to build a proper connection between Smith Valley Road and Main Street. One that can be done efficiently and safely for all of those members who will live along that road. It can handle the volume because you can build it to be so. It is a once in a lifetime opportunity. If you do not take it, it will be gone. And you'll be left with secondary roads such as the ones we live on to connect to these other streets to perform this purpose. We hope they will take advantage of it. We further don't quite understand the need for a redundant connection through our neighborhood if you build the first one. But we do ask first and foremost that you get that first connection built. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Patricia Cheney. I live at 242 Victory Avenue in Bella Heights subdivision. At the last meeting, there was a lot of people that complained of the traffic on Main Street. Now, I've lived there 31 years, and during those years, we've seen traffic continue to build and build and build. There are times that I can't even get out of my neighborhood. So I go over and cut through Starbucks to come out on the stoplight to be able to go south. There's been accidents on Main Street, even since the roundabout has been built. And I don't know about the traffic studies, but I do know that we did request a traffic study be done on Main Street and also on Smith Valley Road, because years ago, there was word going around that Smith Valley Road and Main Street were going to be turned into 4 lanes. Well, telephone poles were moved and set back, and it appeared that something was going to happen, but it did not happen. And so today, we are expecting hundreds more vehicles on Main Street and Smith Valley Road. And then now they're going to be filtering over to Fry Road. And at some point in time, we've got to stop and say, did we do the traffic study that tells us, are people going to be able to move through here without causing more accidents and having more property damages? And have we done the right things? So I'm asking you tonight to do the right thing. Do the traffic study first, come back to us and tell us, you know how it's going to be solved. Is it going to be a roundabout on every few streets? Is it going to be putting in 4 lanes that will help traffic smooth without people pulling over suddenly in front of someone else or jerking down? I was trying to turn into my street, which only goes to the south. So I'm on Main Street, have a turning signal on, I'm legally right to turn, and this car comes speeding past me, goes down the ditch, and comes out in front of me. Well, my heart raced so fast when I looked over and see the top of the car. And I thought, my Lord, if he had hit me, thankfully he didn't. He went the other way and he made it out, but that should not be occurring. I should be able to stop at my street and turn south without dreading. Now I don't. I will be 100% honest with you. I do not. I turn at Love Avenue, go the little longer way around to come back around to my home to protect myself. And maybe someone else that didn't realize that the turning signal meant I was going to turn. And so I ask you tonight to really consider, first of all, do the traffic studies. If you do them and you come up with 4 lanes are not needed, we're going to put our trust in you that you have made the right decision. So I love Greenwood. I plan on living here till the day I take my last breath. But I hope I am not forced to take it in an accident that could have been removed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to speak, but I don't think I want to follow her. My name is Rod Williams. I'm actually at 150 Eastern Point Way, Glen Oak Commons. You know, most of the impact that's going to be on me is the same as everyone else as far as traffic goes. If they open up a road through the new development on the north side of Maine that goes up through Whispering Trails, I don't think there's anybody here that's speaking for Whispering Trails. I coordinated getting those 3 sandwich signs, on Fry Road, Smith Valley, and Main Street. And I put my phone number on there. I traveled to New York, and the weekend I was there, I got 7 phone calls, and 6 of them were from Whispering Trails. So they were very concerned about the traffic going through their neighborhood. Certainly, most emergency response to the nursing home goes down Meadowview. I hear it all the time. If you open up their street, I won't hear it, but I feel sorry for them, too. So if you can keep that in mind, and again, this is not an easy thing to do, but we recognize that development is important. I moved here 32 years ago, and my neighborhood was a cornfield. So we just want it to be responsible development. That's it.
All
I
right,
appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? This will be your last opportunity. Yes. I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Sorry I spoke earlier. Thank you. One thing I forgot to ask is, we don't oppose single-family residential or the rezoning. We're just opposed to the multifamily being put between 2 single families. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone wishing to address the council concerning any other item of business that's on tonight's agenda? All right, hearing none, and we're moving on to ordinances and resolutions. Notice of intent to consider ordinance number 2403.
An ordinance to amend the official zoning map adopted by reference in Unified Development Ordinance number 20-29, proposed rezoning of approximately 113.53 acres located on the north and south side of West Main Street, sponsored by Councilor Leskey.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Lexi, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Betron. All right. Anyone want to talk about this? Mr. Prime?
Good evening. For the record, here at Prime Van David Law Firm, on behalf of the petitioner Apollo Developers and the Walker family. Looks like the old PowerPoint's coming up. Here we go.
Excuse me, just a minute, Eric. IT, one of the TVs out here is not working. Could you get it turned on? Thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So we're here this evening about the Walker Commons development. Project team is Apollo Developers, that's the developer, Walker family is the property owners, and Baylor Law Firm representing, and then my engineering as the engineer. There is a substantial legacy for the Walker family in this area, and they want to create a high quality community that promotes connectivity and beneficial use for the surrounding communities. Basically, they're the last farm field in. All the farm fields around them have developed over the years, and they're ready to move on. It's difficult to run a farm in the middle of the city, so they're going to look for some property out in the farm area. So we have site location. It's 3 separate parcels, one on the north side of Main Street and 2 on the south. I'm going to refer to them as the southwest and southeast as we move into the presentation, just so you know. I think everybody's fairly familiar with that. This next slide just shows the zoning in the area and what we are seeking. We are seeking residential large and then residential attached in the remainder of the RA zone. I'll dive in and explain very quickly what each of those sections looks like. But this is the important part, I think, for this evening. For those of you who haven't seen this yet, Mr. Lexi got to see it with the Plan Commission, but for the rest of you, on the left is the original plan that was submitted to your staff at the beginning of this process. The pink area on the far left side of this is the area that was originally carved out for apartments. And then that was surrounded by some paired patio type homes and some single family homes. The north section in the blue was and still is single family homes. And then the section to the southeast was going to be a combination of townhomes right off Main Street, and then larger single-family lots in the yellow area. When this proposal came out, there was, shall we say, robust response on social media. So we had a town hall meeting, and obviously we had the plan commission meeting, two of them. One was continuance, and then the actual meeting. And in the meantime, we interfaced with a lot of neighborhood folks and also their representatives to try to refine what we had planned and to make this something that was as close to being good for everybody as we could. And so you can see the new, if you look on the right side, let's start at the top. One of the things that changed was, well, all along there was a collector road running up sort of the east side of that north parcel. You can see it there where the subdivision on the old plan connected in two different spots to that collector road, and then it went on north and out of the Walker property. Concerns obviously were raised there in terms of that being a potential issue for Whispering Trails to the north. And so if you look on the right side of that map, you'll see that we are indicating now a traffic circle at the top for folks coming either way, obviously. But if you're northbound into Whispering Trails, you have to hit that traffic circle as a natural traffic calming feature. And then there's currently a three-way stop just off the map that we assume will become a four-way stop, and we certainly would advocate for that. It's not on our property, so we don't control that. That's up to the city to do. But the collector road that is shown there has been in the city's transportation plan since at least 2007. So all along, the city was looking for a way to get from Main Street to Fry Road, and this is that way. So we are simply accommodating what has been in the transportation plan. Then if you look at the lower right corner of this, you'll see the difference in the apartments. That pink area is gone. There are no apartments. There really are no multifamily houses. They're all single family homes, and some of them are single family attached. So I want to make that really clear. There is no multifamily as that term is used in your ordinance here at all. So on that southwest corner, we have an entire section of age restricted 55 and older paired patios, but each of those will be owner occupied, for sale buildings. They just share a common wall, but just single family in each of them. And then the townhomes will be a little bit to the north there in that section. Again, those are all individual single family units. They just, again, share some common walls. So when we move the townhomes from the southeast section in the old plan over to the southwest section, we also decreased the density. I believe there were 100 in the old plan, and now there's 70 in the new plan. So 30% reduction in that density. And then we moved the single family detached component, the orange, on the southeast side. Those moved from the west to the east. So basically flip-flop the townhomes and those single family homes. And then still, one other thing, two other things. On the original plan, on the southwest parcel, you can see next to that pink area, we were originally showing kind of a boulevard going south from Main Street and then connecting into the neighborhood to the south. Based upon the feedback that we got, including some of what you heard here this evening, if you look at the plan on the new section, it's a real circuitous route now to get from Main Street down in to any of the other neighborhoods. And all of those connections, the two that are shown there, are coming out of the 55 and older age restricted area. And then on the southeast section in the old plan, there were two connections into Green Valley that you can see with a cul-de-sac ending down by Smith Valley Road. Again, based upon the feedback that we got from folks, we've now opened up or shown a roadway all the way from Main Street down to Smith Valley Road within the Walker property, and removed one of the two connections into Green Valley. That will now just be a stub street into a green space, and the other connection stayed further north. It's our feeling, now of course nobody knows for sure, but I suspect nobody is going to come out of the Walker area there and go into Green Valley Estates. There's nothing to be gained time-wise. I think they'll go straight south out onto Smith Valley Road. And then likewise, the folks in Green Valley have never been able to get straight up to Main Street. Now they can. They'll be able to come out of their neighborhood up through ours to access Main Street. instead of going around the horn back onto 135 and up around like they've had to up until now. So there is certainly some public benefit to doing it this way. There was a 40% reduction in density from the old plan to the new plan. And this is a little bit of a busy slide, but it just shows you the current densities. I'm going to just read off for you real quick. The north parcel, the blue housing area is 2.4 units per acre. That compares to Westridge immediately to the east at 4.2, and Stony Brook Springs and Stony Brook Grove to the west at 2.9. So it's actually quite a bit less dense than what's around it. And then obviously there's some apartments over there as well on the north side of Main Street. Our southwest parcel will have the townhomes and the paired patio homes. That's 5.3 units per acre, which again, across from the apartments, which are 11 units per acre. And then on the southeast parcel, again, it's 2.4. The Coopers is 2.8, Green Valley is 1.9, and the Green Valley Hendricks is 3.3. So really in keeping with everything around us in terms of density. Give you a quick look at each of these sections. I'm not going to belabor these, but just so you know what is being proposed. The north section will be David Weekly homes. They aren't building a lot down here yet. They've been mostly on the north side. They took over for Estridge Homes, if you remember that name, when Estridge went out of business. So they mostly were started where Estridge was concentrated on the north side, but they would like to bring these homes down here. These are going to be about $400,000 and will take up that blue area. They will all be single family detached. And that does give you a little better view of the traffic circle. Interestingly enough, more than once we heard from folks who did not want to see the giant tree at the north part of our property go away. And guess what's in the middle of the traffic circle? Giant tree. So they're going to make every effort they can to save that as they put in this. So the next section, we're now looking at the southeast section. The orange again is single family homes. Those also will be David Weekly. They're interesting because these are going to be a rear load product that will be good for maybe move up buyers, empty nesters, and all of the homes will be accessed from alleys in behind. You can see, so when you drive down the main streets there, the cul-de-sac and the main street coming, the entry street coming off Main Street, you'll just see the fronts of homes. There won't be any garage doors visible. And then in the yellow area, that will be Drees, and that will be homes starting $650,000 to $700,000 on large estate lots. And that's the section then that will connect on out to Smith Valley Road. And then finally on the southwest section, you see in the orange, those will be the paired patio homes. The renderings of those are in the lower right of that slide. They actually, it's Fisher Homes will be doing those. Those will be about $300,000. They actually offset them. So when you go down the street, you're not looking at a bunch of garages. They turn one of the units 90 degrees to break up the streetscape. The townhomes will be a combination of front load, which you see kind of in the middle picture there, and rear load, which you see at the top. So on Main Street, when you drive down Main Street, that rear load product will be facing Main Street. So that top picture is what you'll see along Main Street. You won't see any garages. They will be in behind. The front load versions are along that long cul-de-sac that stretches toward the church. And again, driving down Main Street, you'll see the rear elevation of those. So again, no garages. So we've taken, some thoughtful process here to try to make this good, just a good streetscape for everyone. And this just gives you an idea of what we were thinking and why the paired patio and the townhomes are in that section, again, where the apartments originally were going to be. There are apartments to the north of this on Main Street, so you'll be going, if you go south to north, you go from single family to the paired patios, to the townhomes, to the apartments. If you go west to east, again, single family to the paired patio, to the townhomes, to the church and school. So it's just a good transition area in there. But again, all of these will be single family homes. They just share some common walls. Assessed value is something that is of interest here to the council, I'm sure. The current land is being assessed as ag, which it is currently zoned ag, and they're paying ag rates, which are taxes. It's still something to be paid, but it's substantially less than what you'll see. Just to call your attention to the second column from the right at the bottom, that's where the main information is. New assessed annual tax revenue will be 1.534 million. When you offset that with what's being paid currently, the increase in property taxes to the city will be 1.519, almost $1,520,000 annually in differential in increased tax base. So there will be money generated from this development to help support any increased city services that are needed by it. That's really all I have for you this evening. Planning, your planning director, planning department gave us a favorable recommendation. Your plan commission also gave us a favorable recommendation and forwarded it to you. So we're certainly asking this evening for a vote on the notice of intent to consider in a positive way for this reason.
All right, thank you, Mr. Prime. Any questions for Mr. Prime?
I have a question here. Is it, I understand part of the reason we need the density, so the doubles, right, the patio homes is paper infrastructure, correct, to get out to Howard Road, put in a sewer system? Is that why we need that fair assessment?
Well, I mean, it's all part of the pro forma. I don't know that you can take one part away and say it's only for that or it's in there because of that, but that all of the products that we have will contribute to having the ability to fund that. So there's sewer to be brought in, there's the collector road to be taken from Main Street up to the north.
So what I'm getting at, because I've heard the folks say they don't really care for the doubles, it adds density, I get that, which increases traffic if we're gonna connect these streets. If you built a product that only had 2.4 houses per acre or whatever it was on the lower end, for the southeast quadrant there, would you be able to do this project? Would it?
That I don't know. You mean, would it still make sense
Right.
physically or?
Yeah.
I think it would not. I mean, that is, I think in terms of the traffic and the connections, the way we addressed that was to make that an age restricted 55 and older section of their patios, whereas before it was not. So we rearranged the road. Let me get back to that slide real quick.
And then sort of companion question, if we tip this area in a residential tip and paid for that sewer infrastructure, could you come back with a less dense product that doesn't include the patio homes and maybe the townhomes?
It's certainly something we'd be happy to look at. It won't change. I mean, the zoning won't have to change because it's just RA, so that it could be single family detached in there. I just don't know what those numbers are going to look like.
Well, the reason I ask is because, we only get one bite at the apple. So if we change the zoning to what you want it to change to, you could go ahead and build that if we don't put that restriction in now. So that's why I want to know if that's something that you could do.
Can we TIF residential?
According to my expert, we can, yes. Indiana Code 36-7-14-53.
Even as.
The age restricted TIF is 36-7-14-49, so completely different section.
Is the code section you're relying upon?
36-7-14-53. He's usually right. Always right in my house.
Check 36-7, what?
36-7-14-53.
Any other questions for Mr. Prime?
I do. I've got a couple.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's one question.
This is what the council's questioning, Mr. Prime. All right. Mr. Nelson, do you have something to say?
Yes.
So one thing about the RA zone, the RA zone is called residential attached single family zone. And the blurb that we have in our in our ordinance that talks about the development standards says that these zones provide areas of the city devoted to attached single-family homes such as duplexes and townhomes within and complementary to areas devoted to single-family dwellings to promote a greater mix of residential housing options. Right now, we are very underhoused in Indiana and in Greenwood. I do think that when we look at housing, all types of housing are underbuilt right now. A mix of densities, a mix of uses, a mix of options would be a great thing for this area on our main street in the city of Greenwood. I know currently I'm renting an apartment. The starter homes in here are they're expensive. I mean, I think if we went all single family, we'd be missing out on a lot of different detached single family. I'm sorry, we'd be missing out on a lot of people that would want to call Greenwood home. Going on, I have a brief presentation for you. This is quickly coming together just to show one of the reasons why connectivity is important to us. I know it maybe wasn't talked as much tonight about connectivity, but it's been a question I know many of the council members have asked, and definitely I've been getting a lot of phone calls and emails from residents. So one of the reasons we like connectivity is because you're able to disperse the traffic to multiple different roads and connection systems. If you limit your east-west or north-south connectivity, you're going to have a bottleneck on certain roads. So if we're able to disperse the traffic, it should actually make the traffic in the area better. Second, I do want to talk a little bit about public safety and response times. On this map, I just have the northern parcel. I'm sorry, I don't have the southern parcel. The northern parcel, it is the blank green area that will be populated on the next slide. The green area is our 6-minute response time. The red area is our 4-minute response time. You can see the fire station logo. It's to the north of the stream. Adding that north connectivity would allow the entire subdivision that's being added, along with the neighboring subdivisions, to be within our 4-minute response time. One of the roads that we would like connectivity to would be to the nursing home. It's at the end of an 80-home subdivision with one means of access. Connectivity is very important. If there's a tornado that takes out one of the accesses to the subdivision, we want that second access to be able to access them. So the two things I'd say is distribute traffic and public safety. Lastly, this is a zone map change. It is not a site plan. Planning staff, engineering staff, sanitation, stormwater, fire, building. Our work starts when the zone map change is approved. We're going to be reviewing traffic studies, looking at the lot requirements, traffic calming measures. We look at landscaping. All of these things go into it. So that's what we're hired to do. I know that a lot of times it's hard to detach the zoning from the concept site plan, but it is truly just to give you an idea of what could be here. And staff will work with the petitioner long after this meeting to ensure that it's done in a responsible way. Just in closing, I'd like to offer my support to this zone map change, and I'm here if you have any questions. We also have our city engineer, Mark, with us, if you have any more specific traffic questions. I won't pretend to be an engineer.
Question.
Yes, sir.
We talked a little bit offline about traffic studies and, with regard to all the different developments coming in, not just this one, but a couple other ones that are on the docket or have been recently approved. And thinking about like the 10-year plan and how all that traffic study comes together. So, will the results of the traffic study come in before the platting process so that we can, I know it's beyond us at that point, it would be on you all to make sure that traffic study is taken into consideration, but how does that work? Like, when will people be able to see that?
I'm glad you asked that. So the traffic study, they're not always required. Planning staff has asked Plan Commission and Common Council to make it a requirement for them to do a traffic study. That's a commitment that we are suggesting to you guys to make to the developer, and the developer has expressed that they have noted our request and they have no concerns. I believe they've already started to scope the traffic study with our engineer, Mark St. John. That will be a requirement for us to review for the primary plat, the final plat, and the site development plan that comes with it. So we cannot approve any of these homes. We can't approve the street layout. What's going to happen without really understanding what the additional homes do to this area. We talked about how there's many different developments. Some of those developments might be adding homes at the same time. That's part of the reason they've scoped the traffic study with Mark St. John, so that he can include key intersections, and he's aware of the other subdivisions that are making their way through the process. In addition, the traffic study does have a built-in population growth projection, so it's not looking at the population as a frozen number, it's looking at an increase over time. So there are some things that take into account additional homes, not just from this subdivision, but from other subdivisions.
Any other questions from the council?
Where is the traffic study going to take place? I mean, is it every intersection, every connecting road to these neighborhoods? Like Fry Road isn't part of the neighborhood. Is it going to be studied? Is Smith Valley going to be studied at the place that their connection is coming out?
Mark St. John is
Okay.
coming to my rescue. He'll be able to help answer that. Lastly, I just do want to say, if you approve it, we would recommend the 8 conditions in the staff report. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mark St. John, City Engineer. Mr. Manship, to answer your question, when we look at a traffic impact study, we studied major intersections within a certain distance from a development. I believe we've talked about on this one, Main Street, Yorktown, Smith Valley, and Yorktown. We've also will look at all connections, subdivision entrances and exits as well too, to make sure they function properly.
So every connecting road at the end of that neighborhood, for example, Covered Bridge Road at Fry Road, will be studied.
I think Covered Bridge Road at Fry Road might be a little farther beyond the scope of our traffic study.
But it connects to this new road.
Correct, but if you get too far away from the study area, it can be hard to accurately project how traffic will disperse through the network. And so you're moving away from what can be considered sound engineering judgment into a guessing game, if that makes sense.
So it's not going to be evaluated, even though the traffic we know is going to be heavier through there.
Right.
But all the other intersecting roads will be studied.
Main entrance to the subdivision and major intersections, yes.
Right, any other questions from the council?
I actually have one. Mark. I hear from residents about traffic studies, and this might be an opportune time to explain why traffic study, and this is for me too, just to understand, because I always wonder about cart before the horse, right? Are we putting the cart before the horse, talking about rezoning before we do traffic studies? Why is it that a traffic study is done after, say, a zoning change? why is it where it is in the process?
As mentioned by Mr. Nelson tonight, what you all see and what you have discussed is a concept plan. And so that can change. The number of lots can change, the site access points can change, the street layout can change. So it's hard to scope a traffic impact study at the rezone phase. It could be done, it would just likely make the developer more committed to that concept plan, if that makes sense.
So is this it's normal practice to kind of get through this preliminary change of zoning, then do the traffic study, and then that will guide kind of the final site plan and planning?
Yeah, I would say that's our typical process in Greenwood. As well too, if you approve the zoning tonight, this proposed development could go away and the existing zoning would still stay, in which case we would want to scope a new traffic impact study with that, whatever new development might come in.
Mark, you made the comment about this being a concept. And as Mr. Campbell mentioned, we only get one bite of the apple, and that's one of the reasons that I like to see the rendition of something similar that the developer has done, so that we have some idea of the quality of what we're putting in there. And so are you fairly confident, are you 80%, 90% confident that we'll be able to have some type of an exit out onto Smith Valley Road, even if it's a right only?
Yeah, I'm fairly comfortable with that recommendation. I had a couple of concerns, which is why that note is on that site plan to be coordinated with the city engineer. I want to make sure it doesn't impact the operations of the existing roundabout at Smith Valley and Yorktown. I also want to make sure that there's proper site distance. There's a hill there on Smith Valley, so I want to make sure people can see
And that's a
incoming and
big
outgoing
concern.
traffic. Yes. Which all that can be addressed during the site plan process.
But if this is a concept, we could agree to the zoning change. The traffic study could come back and it could change to the point that maybe we don't even recognize what we approved. Is that possible?
Yeah, maybe Mr. Frank can speak to this as well too. The developer's done a fair bit of homework on this to make sure the
I
site
realize
makes
that.
sense.
They've done a good job of making changes.
Correct. I mean, I believe as long as the pilot developer continues to be this developer, what has been presented here tonight will substantially comply with what's constructed.
But that will be based on the traffic study. A lot of any changes would be based on the traffic study.
Sure for that. So, I guess, I think the question, and this is, I know a conflict I've talked about with council before. You are not approving this site development. That is the role of the advisory plan commission, technical review committee, myself, and our engineering team. This is simply an approval of the underlying zoning. Now, when a developer comes to us with this much detail, it's a very strong possibility that it will look very similar to what they've shown us, because they've analyzed the stormwater to make sure it is feasible. They've done the calculations on the sanitary sewer, where that's located, where it can go. They've done the counting on the lots to make sure they know what is feasible for them. A lot of homework, some engineering goes into this before we ever see it, because they want to make this project successful, possibly more than I do, because they're the ones paying the bill. So what we have before us will likely be very similar to what we see. But if the traffic study comes back and we find that there's a dangerous traffic pattern, a intersection fails, that something doesn't work correctly, we will work with them and their engineering team to develop a new plan that will likely be a slight alteration to this concept plan to make sure that the traffic works correctly in this area. So it's, if there's a a big recession and the development goes away. Hope that never happens, but someone else 10 years down the road could pick up the zoning and try and develop something there as well. It is really just an approval of the underlying zone, and whoever would go forward with it would be required to do a traffic study based on our suggested commitment.
And I'm not trying to beat you up, but, and I realize that our responsibility is the zoning part of it. But we are elected officials representing the community, so, you know, they bring thoughts to us, and when we look at those, that's part of the reason that, you know, we're so concerned about everything working out, that everyone's happy and safe.
No, I understand that, and please trust that my interests are also with the community of Greenwood. And using my background and my education, I'm trying to do what is best for the city.
And I trust you, it's just that we are the representation of the community.
I understand. Thank you, Linda.
One quick point on that, if I may, the traffic study is actually in process with retained A&F to do the traffic study, so it's in the works now. We gave them the plan that you have, the new plan that you have in front of you. Sorry, I can't, it's on Gabe's presentation, I can't get back to that, but anyway, the most recent version of the plan is what the traffic study is going to be based on. So we are happy to commit that we will build this project in a substantially similar manner to what we've presented here tonight. And that's a pretty common commitment, just so that you know, when I say substantially similar, yes, a road connection might change, or a road, you know, path may change based on the traffic study. But in terms of the sections and what we've presented in those separate sections, we will commit to building that in a substantially similar manner. And all of our building partners are on board, David Weekly, Dries, and Fisher, to do these projects and put them where we've shown. So.
And I appreciate you supplying us with renditions, that's helpful, thank you.
Any other questions from the council?
Questions by comments?
Comments?
Are those okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So first, what the crowd's gonna hate. I hate the Main Street to Smith Valley connection, but I hear you, so I'll support it. Like they said, I mean, there's a hill there. Nobody's ever gonna be able to turn left out of there, so I think we should make it a right in and right out only. The Hendricks neighborhood itself was built in the 50s, so for what, 70+ years now, they've had quiet enjoyment of their streets. Green Valley came a little bit later in the early 70s. So for 50 years, they've had quiet enjoyment of the streets without anybody adding to them. I think it should stay that way. I loathe the connection at Faith. It just makes no sense to me. It's not even a straight shot over to 135. You got to jog around. You're either going to go out Faith and never be able to turn because traffic on 135 is the way it is, or you'll have to go into the Starbucks parking lot and go down that 45-degree hill and hope your car doesn't bottom out. So it makes absolutely no sense to me that we would connect there. I share the concerns with Ms. Manship that we need something to slow down traffic, probably going north on Covered Bridge so that folks aren't flying through there. Another reason I dislike the Smith Valley connector from Main Street is because I know people are going to use that as that first section there going north is just going to fly through there. I mean, they do it on my street and it's only a block long. So, so that's that. All that to say, I would propose an amendment if we are going to vote on this tonight, although I still would like to look into TIFNet, maybe pay for the sewer, and that way we have less density. But I'll propose an amendment. And that would be no vehicular connection at Faith, no vehicular connection at Green Valley, even though there's not one in the current design, no vehicular connection at Leah Lane, and then a four-way stop at Covered Bridge and Timber Tree.
We have a motion by Mr. Hopper. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Williams. Any discussion on the motion to amend ordinance 24-03?
Those are perfect spots to put trails in that connect Green Valley via Hendricks.
said in the city commitments.
They're already.
Oh,
They're already in there.
Yeah,
Did I
they're
say
in the
also
ordinance.
right turn only and right out only at Smith Valley and whatever district? Oh, and no vinyl. I thought it was already in there, but no vinyl if they haven't already.
Yeah,
committed to
no,
it.
that's one of the.
It's already in there.
Oh, I see it.
That's one of
It's
the.
number 4. Got it.
commitments, yes.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Nelson, do you have a comment before we vote on this?
Yeah, if I may, I would strongly oppose the commitments to the no connectivity. It's the best planning practice to have this connectivity.
I mean, we are connecting, just not vehicles. Pedestrian traffic can get in and out. You can bike, you can run, you can walk.
Yes, I understand what
Okay,
you're saying.
just making sure. And we still have 2 entrances and exits for public safety purposes. You've got one at Elk Lane in the southwest portion in Main Street. You've got Main Street in Smith Valley, even though I hate the Smith Valley one. And of course, you have 2 on the northern section, so.
Thank you, Mr. Hopper. What we're proposing does conflict with our subdivision ordinance. It does ask for connectivity between developments and parcels. So I will say, with this being proposed, it's likely that that will have to go, if it is proposed and approved with that, it will likely have to go to our plan commission, who typically has the ability to have waivers to our subdivision ordinance, since we are suggesting commitments that directly oppose our subdivision ordinance, which was approved by our common council. It is a best practice to have connectivity. I don't think it makes a lot of sense if you're trying to drive to your friend's house and you just pull out on Main Street, pull back into another road, more roads, more cars are going to go on the Main Street to make connections across the city, that if we just planned appropriately with best practices, we would not need to do. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
So we pass it, so then it's our prerogative to not abide by it.
Mr. Prime, would you like to address whether or not this amendment would affect the feasibility of the project?
Be cheaper, you've got less road to build. You now only need a 10-foot wide path instead of an entire street.
Now, let's be clear, just so I know for sure which ones you took out. So if we look.
Just from your concept plan, just Bacon Leah. Bacon's on the far western edge.
Oh, I got you.
Leah goes into the Green Valley.
All right, so the Green Valley section would have just the Main Street in the Smith Valley, but no connectivity coming out of it. And then on the southwest piece, we would still be able to go south, but not west. I don't think that's gonna affect feasibility. Just won't have the full connectivity.
All right. Any other discussion on the council about the amendment to ordinance 2403?
I guess I'm torn. I live in Brandywine and we have connectivity. And I do use it like Gabe has described. I do use it to go, when my kids were young, I used it to take them to their babysitter who lived in the next neighborhood that was not our neighborhood. And I have visited clients in Crystal Lakes who I can get to without going out on the Smith Valley Road and taking the long way.
But these people never know any different because that would be all they ever know.
I understand.
And I can understand what you're trying to say, David, but at the same time, it has been in our it's been in the subdivision ordinance since at least before 1980, that when we build an addition, we do the step streets so that there is connectivity there, and our traffic flow is horrible. I myself don't think there's going to be that much traffic put in most of those additions. I think that more so the people in those additions are going to be using them to go north or south, which they can't do now. That doesn't mean we have to do all of them, but I am afraid of being too restrictive on those.
Any other comments or questions about the amendment to ordinance 2403? Just to be clear, the amendment is to eliminate the connection on Faith Street, on Leeway, and to create a four-way stop at Timber Trail and Covered Bridge, and the exit off of onto Smith Valleys to be a right in, right out. Is that correct? Is there anything else?
Mike, can I add to that?
Got the four-way stop?
Yeah, four-way stop. You can ask Mr. Hopper if he would like to add to that.
Would you like to add to that?
What is it you would like me to add to that?
I have asked from the get-go, can the connecting between the new neighborhood, which I think everyone embraces that, it's the connectivity between all these neighborhoods that people are objecting to. So if we're eliminating connections, can there be a park and pedestrian and bicycle traffic that goes between Walker Commons North and Whispering Trails? Instead of it being a connecting road, which is a straight shot, if you look at this, that's been the concern of my constituents.
Sure.
As long as we're throwing out.
Are you talking, just to be clear, are you talking about eliminating the connection between Main Street and Fry Road?
Yeah,
That's been,
Timber Trail
that's
and
been
Covered Bridge.
called for like
Yeah.
decades in the
Yeah,
city.
and that
I'm aware.
would only give us one exit entrance. in
Yeah.
that.
No,
Are
there's
you
two.
amending it for that day?
I am not, no, I will pass, I will decline.
Okay.
But I do have the four-way stop there to slow people down. So,
I don't know how many people were living in the south, or on the south side, when they had that explosion up there off of Sherman Drive. But they had a terrible time because there was only one entrance in.
well, none of these have one entrance in. They all have two. Although interestingly, there are at least 4 subdivisions that I can think of off the top of my head that only have one entrance in. Clearbrook Village, I'm pretty sure only has one. Stone Ridge clearly has one. Shepherd's Grove has one. Honey Creek Apartments on 135 only has one.
Shepherd's Grove was annexed after it was built.
Still,
Yes, that's true, but if it was built today, it would have to. All right, any other discussion on the amendment to ordinance 2403?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, and I've asked, I'm just wondering out loud, because most of what I heard from citizens of Greenwood, especially what I got from citizens, had to do with Green Valley down here, and they've lived in kind of this multi-street just from Smith Valley with no other access point. And I hear that as being a concern with traffic through there. And please know that I grew up in the Coopers. And so the traffic that runs through the Coopers has been a concern of mine as well. But what I'd like to just think out loud tonight is this. When you look at the connection from Main Street to Smith Valley, and that road that runs through there, I asked, do you think that people would drive through there and opt to cut through Green Valley as a primary option versus the folks that live in Green Valley having an opportunity to come right out here to Main Street without coming around? And that's me thinking out loud. And the reason why I'm saying this is because
I agree. I don't think they would.
Right.
But I've heard from them they don't want it.
Right,
so-
right, and I hear that, and so that's been a tearing piece of my understanding of this project is folks like it the way that they've always had it. But I just wonder if maybe we're overlooking an opportunity to make it better with this connection that would more likely be one way to the north versus kind of a two-way connection. I just wonder if we want to fight this just because it's changed rather than thinking about whether or not it may be a pretty good thing to be able to get to Main Street from your neighborhood, instead of going around 135 or cutting over to the Coopers where I grew up, where is now almost seems like interstate highway. And so I bring that up, not to be facetious, not to be, but I wonder out loud, would it be a good thing? And before we vote on amendment to cut that connectivity, now over here, going into Faith, that's a nightmare over there, right? That's a nightmare to get to 135, and I don't know, I probably agree with that with knocking that connectivity off. But I just, sometimes when you ask for something, you might just get it, and it might be something that might be decent for the neighborhood. I understand the concern is traffic coming through your neighborhood, but I wonder, I'm just asking if you think that maybe it would be a good outlet. Because I do want to listen to what you have to say, and I get it, I understand. I grew up in a neighborhood that turned into that.
All right, so, well, audience participation, raise your hand if you live in Hendricks or Green Valley and you want the Leah connection.
No, we don't want it.
We don't want it. Okay. It's unanimous. We do not.
On the phone, I don't want it either.
Thank you, online person.
And but the problem is, sorry, I know we're not supposed to speak, but if you connect to us and make traffic come through us, we do not have sidewalks to protect ourselves or our children like the Coopers has. So if you connect to us without that Smith Valley connection,
Thanks,
you
sir.
guarantee you're gonna.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the council? Hearing none, then roll call on the amendment to ordinance 2403 as outlined by Mr. Hopper.
Betron.
Aye.
Campbell.
Nay.
Gibson.
Nay.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Nay.
Manship.
Aye.
Moan.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Ordinance 2403 is amended on a vote of 6-3. Any further discussion on ordinance 2403 as amended?
May I approach?
No.
Yeah, right.
I guess I appreciate, to reiterate, the biggest compromise on the part of the developer is going from what was proposed at 500 units down to 300 units. I think that a lot of these problems we're talking about, traffic, things of that nature, have been addressed by that sheer drop in density. Again, from 500 units down to 300 units, and that satisfied my concerns about the development. I support it.
Any other comments on the council or questions? Hearing none, then roll call ordinance 2403 as amended.
Campbell.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship.
Nay.
Moan.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Betron.
Ordinance 2403 as amended passes on a vote of 8-1. Thank you. Now we'll go back to the beginning of the agenda, and all of you should have received copies of the minutes from our last meeting of January the 17th. Do I have a motion? Motion, Mr. Hopper, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Moan. Any discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, then roll call on the amendments. I'm sorry, on the minutes.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship. Aye. Moan.
Aye.
Williams.
Abstain.
Betron.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye. The minutes are approved on a vote of 7-0 with one abstention. And just to note, Ms. Gibson had to leave the meeting, so she's no longer here. Reports, Corporation Council.
Nothing to report.
Anything from the controller at this time?
Nothing at this time.
Any other committee or board reports? Hearing none, then ordinance and resolutions, first reading, resolution 2401.
A resolution amending resolution number 21-07, a resolution declaring certain area within the city agreement an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements for tax abatement and setting the time and place for a public hearing. Sponsored by Hopper.
Do I have a motion? Motion, Mr. Hopper, second. Mr. Lexi. Anybody want to We had a question about this last time concerning an agreed minimum assessment, and is Mr. Stone online? Oh, I see him.
Hey, good evening,
Proposal
council
for us?
members. Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, hey, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to provide a quick update. There was a discussion and question at the last hearing with respect to the minimum assessed value and some options. There are two broad options. One is to sort of review the assessed value once it's actually assessed by the assessor's office as part of just the compliant CF1 process if this abatement is approved. The second was, after consulting with legal, council could amend the resolution to include a minimum assessed value. There's the range that I think is relevant for that is anywhere between the 8.5 million that is currently the costs and investments that are being proposed as part of this project, and maybe no higher than the 12.5 million that the petitioners research as far as comparable property assessments would be. From a staff and a recommendation perspective, really council's choice on those. What we would suggest would be that if council elects to do the minimum assessed value amendment, that we think that it's probably the best that whatever that minimum assessed value is equivalent to the investment and costs that are being committed as well. So whether or not that's 8.5 million on both, or 12.5 million on both, or in some number in between. So I hope that helps. And I believe there are some representatives there on behalf of the petitioner that may be able to speak to it as well.
Great, thank you, Adam. Any questions for Adam? I discussed this a little bit with Adam earlier last week. The original abatement and commitment on part of the developer was an investment of $8.5 million, and we approved that assessment approved that abatement based on that amount of investment. It's my opinion that I think what Mr. Stone said regarding making a minimum assessment at whatever their investment is, whether if they're going to invest 8.5 million, which was the minimum amount, or if they're going to invest 10 million, then the assessment, the minimum agreed assessment would be at that level. That would be, I think that was the second proposal. Any questions about that? Would someone like to make an amendment to that effect?
I would.
Okay, Mr. Hopper makes an amendment to resolution 2401 that the minimum, it would be an agreed minimum assessment equal to the investment. Is that correct, Mr. Adams?
12.5 million. Is he frozen? Does he look
I'm
frozen?
sorry. Mr. Stone?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right. The suggestion was the agreed minimum assessment at the level of their investment. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my suggestion. So if the council's intends to do the assessed value at 12.5 million, I would suggest that the requirement of the SB1 to be invested in the project be amended to be 12.5 million as well, so that those two numbers are the same.
All right. Is that the amount they've agreed to invest?
That's the amount they said they would get in assessed value. Correct.
Yeah, so,
Yes.
yeah. Council, again, Alexis Sauter with KSM Location Advisor. So yes, the statement of benefits form, the only thing that is amended from the original project to now really is the time, the investment window. So we have kept, in an effort to keep everything as identical as possible, you've currently got 8.5 on the SB1, and that would be what's before you. For what it's worth, I did pull some numbers earlier today. Again, this was a 4-building project. Going back to the original application, we had included kind of an all-in improvement value of 40.8 million, with just the 3 out of 4 developments completed, we're already at 36.8. So even with an 8.5 commitment, we're over, right, what we said the original investment would be all in anyway. So just wanted to throw that number out there for consideration, just to, again, provide context for what was originally approved and
No,
where we're
Alexis,
at.
You
I
were
mean,
so confident in that 12.5 million number last time.
it's not that I'm not confident in it now, but I'm also, I'm not an assessor,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean, it's purely an estimate. So I'm trying to be mindful of the original application versus, you know, what we're bringing before you now, and not trying to throw shade, for lack of a better term, when it comes to trying to pull comp data on where an estimated AV would come in.
I would be agreeable with 8.5 or the amount of the investment, whichever's highest.
Well, but then on that, now, a lot of times, right, like your investment is gonna be, usually an AV is gonna come in below your
that's
all-in investment, so.
My goal is not to give them money, but for us to get money, see? So, in the change of the scope of the project, which I said I don't like as much, right? A truck terminal now as opposed to just a warehouse. For what it's worth, you say it's better, that's fine, I don't disagree with that statement, but yeah, I stick with my 12.5.
Okay, we have a motion with Mr. Hopper to amend resolution 2401 to include a minimum assessment, agreed to minimum assessment of 12.5 million. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Williams. Any discussion on the amendment to resolution 2401? Hearing none, then roll call on the amendment to resolution 2401.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship. Aye. Mo.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Betron. Aye. Campbell.
Nay.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Resolution 2401 is amended on a vote of 7-1. Any discussion on resolution 2401 as amended? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 2401, first reading as amended.
Manship. Aye. Mo.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Betron. Aye. Campbell.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Resolution 2401 passes first, resolution 2401 as amended passes first reading 8-0. Resolution 2402.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A resolution approving certain amendments to the East Side Economic Development Area sponsored by Campbell and Hopper.
Motion, Mr. Hopper. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mon. Anyone who want to talk about this one?
I think they did last time.
Okay.
Yep.
Any discussion on the council? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 2402, first reading.
Mo.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Betron. Aye. Campbell.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship. Aye.
Resolution 2402 passes first reading 8-0. Resolution 2403.
A resolution approving certain amendments to the East Side Economic Development Area for Indus Hauser Unicorp project sponsored by Campbell and Hopper.
Motion, Mr. Hopper, second
Second.
by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion on the council? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 2403, first reading.
Williams.
Aye.
Betron. Aye. Campbell.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship. Aye. Mo.
Aye.
Resolution 2403 passes first reading 8-0. None under second reading, new business, introduction of new ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 2405.
An ordinance to amend Greenwood Municipal Code as amended, Chapter 6, Article 10, to allow code enforcement personnel to enforce regulations regarding street and sidewalk obstructions, tree and shrub trimming, and littering, sponsored by Hopper.
I want to talk about this?
I will, if nobody else will.
Go right ahead.
The purpose of this ordinance is to relieve the police of the burden of doing things that the planning and zoning people or the code enforcement people are have more time to do and better equipped to do.
Okay. All right, ordinance. Ordinance 2406.
An ordinance to repeal Greenwood Municipal Code 1993 as amended, Chapter 6, Article 5, parades and temporary street closures.
Board of Public Works already does this, so that's a good job, yeah.
All right.
Clean up.
Good job, Mr.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2407.
An ordinance amending Greenwood Municipal Code 1993, Chapter 8, Article 4, Section 8-31 to allow the Board of Public Works and Safety to prohibit overnight parking on city streets and approve overnight parking in city-owned parking facilities, sponsored by Hopper.
I have a question. We're removing the approved overnight parking. So there are areas where there is approved overnight parking and we're removing it? Or we're adding areas where
We're making it so you can't park overnight in the parking garage, basically.
Yeah, well, that's
Get away
right.
from what I was
Well,
talking
just-
about the last time.
But the heading, I was just trying to clarify. Okay.
But we do have approved overnight parking in some of the spaces.
Okay.
So
Oh, okay.
you can now ban it or allow it. as-
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Ordinance 2408.
An ordinance providing for an additional appropriation from the clerk's record perpetuation fund to budget classification 411 in the city clerk budget in the amount of $4,426, sponsored by Hill and Leslie.
Mr. Wright.
Good evening. This item is for the clerk's office. She called me a week or two ago, said that there's an expectation she will need to utilize some more part-time during this year due to some ongoing health issues. So she wanted to have the capability to bring someone in to assist in that office when she was not able to be in due to health conditions.
All right. Any questions? All right. Thank you. Ordinance number 2409.
An ordinance amending the 2024 salary ordinance, Common Council Ordinance 23-33 to increase waste management part-time hourly wage to provide certification pay for certain positions in the Department of Community Development Services, to change the official of the office manager pay and post-conviction relief services, and to address changes in the Greenwood Fire Department hiring process, sponsored by Patrona.
Mr. Wright.
Again, this has multiple items, but they all relate to the salary ordinance. First and foremost, tying the waste management part-time hourly wage to match the street department part-time hourly wage. Those people tend to be interchangeable, and that was missed on the original. The next is providing certification pay for inspectors and CDS. We're trying to encourage them to get more certifications. It is $500 per certification, no more than 2 certifications a year. It's a one-time payout for getting that. Trying to encourage them to get some more so that they can then do multiple different types of inspections. The office manager pay and post-conviction services, that was a request from the new judge. That office manager was making more than both of the probation officers. The judge thought that that should not be the case, so that is being lowered to match the probation officer 2 position. And then finally, the one that's probably the biggest change is related to the fire department. So what we're looking at with the next hiring process for the fire department is to change from making people have to be certified when they come in to allow them to be hired in without certification at a lower rate, and then getting those certifications to encourage it. There is a bonus basically during the probationary period. If they achieve that certification, if they finish it, they can earn a bonus. Also, those certified people can earn a bonus if they get through the probationary period. The idea being it will help us with recruitment. Since we did get approved for our tax levy increase this year, one of the caveats was we needed to bring on those staff members in 2024. So we're going to be looking at hiring, in that process, 12 to 15 firefighters at once, and we really need to expand our pool. So this is something that the chief has used when he was in Bloomington to help increase your recruitment. And then you also get to train these people basically in the way we do things in Greenwood. Nobody's coming in with bad habits, nobody's coming in with being trained on something else that maybe we don't want them doing here. So we get to bring them in all fresh-faced and get them trained as Greenwood firefighters.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Resolution 2404.
A resolution approving an interlocal agreement between the city of Greenwood and Pleasant Township, Johnson County regarding fire protection, sponsored by Campbell.
Good evening, Brad Coy, Assistant Fire Chief. This is just our yearly interlocal agreement with Pleasant Township trustee. Essentially, in the basic, what it is it's unincorporated parts of Pleasant Township that's not covered by a fire service. They're contracting with us to cover that area each year, and they pay us a set amount. So,
Any questions for Assistant Chief?
This one will be enforced before the other one expires. Maybe. When does the last contract expire?
it's usually on a yearly agreement, so I don't know what that.
So maybe
what it is.
December 31st.
We come back to the table about this time every year to do so.
I'll move to suspend the rules for first reading.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Hopper to suspend the rules on ordinance 2404, a resolution 2404 through first reading. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Lexi. Mr. Moan. Any discussion on suspension? Hearing none, then roll call on suspension through first reading, resolution 2404.
Petrarch.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship.
Aye.
Moan.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Rules are suspended by a vote of 8-0. We have a motion on first reading. Motion, Mr. Hopper, second.
Second.
By Ms. Betron. Any discussion? Hearing none, then roll call resolution 2404, first reading.
Campbell.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship.
Aye.
Moan.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Petrarch.
Aye.
Resolution 2404 passes first reading 8-0.
I'll move to suspend the rules for second reading.
A motion for suspension through second reading. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Moan. Any discussion on suspension? Hearing none, then roll call on suspension through second reading, resolution 2404.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship.
Aye.
Moan.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Petrarch.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye. Rules are suspended on a vote of 8-0. The motion on second reading. Motion, Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Moan. Any discussion? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 2404, second reading.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Manship.
Aye.
Moan.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Petrarch.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Hill.
Resolution 2404 passes second reading 8-0. Miscellaneous business, thank you.
Thank you all. I guess it takes to be last on the agenda, so.
Yeah. All right, miscellaneous business. This is the second opportunity for members of the audience to address the council, this time concerning items that are not on tonight's agenda. So if you'd like to do so, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, moving on. Council miscellaneous business. I think we have 7 conflicts of interest listed on the agenda.
Move to approve.
We have a motion, Mr. Hopper, to approve, second by Mr. Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We approved unanimously, 8-0.
I'll move to approve the annual contracts. Do you need that as well?
Yeah.
Motion for that?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, I'll move.
Before we do that, though,
Is somebody here from one of them?
is someone here from either the social, the community band, or Johnson County Senior Services? Typically, we ask for a report, an annual report, and I did tell them this year they do not have to appear in person, but we would like something in writing. I'd kind of like to wait.
Oh, you haven't gotten that?
And I haven't gotten those yet.
Never mind, I did not move.
Yeah. But they will be coming up. Y'all should have copies of those. Just for those of you that are new, we give these groups money from the city. It's split between our budget and the mayor's budget, half and half. And so we'll be voting to approve our half. And one of the reasons that we do this, one of the reasons I like doing this as a council is so that we can get a report. So we have some sort of idea as to how the money that we give them is being spent. I know they can report to the mayor, but we may never hear if he's the only one to report to. So I would like to wait until we get some sort of report from them. And hopefully we'll have that by the next meeting. So anything else from the council? Anyone? Other miscellaneous business, corporation council?
Nothing.
Controller? Mayor's office? Nothing from the mayor. All right, we are adjourned.